Hey guys, Trash Can Monk here. Missed last month, so we're gonna go over 2 months this month. Um, it gets harder to make these videos, especially when you don't have any great results to go with. Um, April was definitely one of those results months. Not so great. The NZD trade that happened during April, I posted videos on that. Ended up putting me and setting me back in April, along with putting me behind in my psychology. And we ended April with a negative 4.22% when 3.75 was the goal. So obviously it wasn't a great month. However, May was looking a lot better. We ended up doing 3.59%. Which is making close to that goal of 3.75, and we're just going to continue using that consistently. One of the lessons that I learned in April was that I was leaving too much on the table, and it's still taking me time to figure out what I'm doing to not leave so much on the table. When I place a trade, I usually go for a 1.4, and I usually take profit within that range. I've quit doing that so far because as it looks, I'm leaving 5 to 6% on the table when I reach full 1.4% reward. So that's putting me so far behind on these curves and only getting me 3.59 or 2% per trade when I could be getting 4 to 5%. That would be a massive game changer. So in April, I was realizing that. May, I was kind of hammering down psychology and I started tracking everything I was doing. April, I was kind of putting together these charts and these things that I wanted to track my trades with percentages and things like that. And they finally came through and were in a sufficient usable order in May. So I'm starting to track from now on all of my trades on a specific sheet, basically, and pull all of that information to show, like, hey, Euro's not really great for you. Mondays suck, or hours between 1 and 2 are trades that you're not necessarily prepared for, so you don't need to be taking those. Any of those little areas that I can get to. I've since cut out all of the major negative trades that I've had. The negative 4% trades, the negative 3% trades, the negative 2.7% trades. Now we're getting back down into that area that I need to be for my risk to reward. I've got negative 0.7s, negative 0.8s, negative 0.1 or 1.2s. Those are specific areas of risk I want to be in, but my rewards are also in the 2s and 3s. And we're starting to become in the 1.57s and the 2s and 3s areas. Those are the areas I want to be in. And so I'm learning over time how to implement all of this, but it is wearing down. I took hundreds of trades in the course of 3 months between January and February, and now in April alone I had 20 something trades. In May I only had 12, and it looks as if June is going to be a little bit more intense, but I'm not trading 50 to 60 trades a month anymore. I'm toning it down. I'm finding the key places for my strategy. I've neglected 30% to 40% of all the pairs that I wanted to trade because they just don't work, or I'm not capable of trading them with my strategy. So the next area looking into as well, I think I was saying in the last one that I wanted to look into new strategies. I don't think I'm necessarily going to push for new strategies. I still need a lot of time in strategy optimization for the one that I have right now. So I'm thinking currently that if I spend a year working on one strategy and getting all of that figured out, I should be able by the next year to add a new strategy because I still need to be ruthlessly engaging with this strategy and not thinking as much. If I can do that, then I would be able to focus on management. The management portion of this is really where it comes down, is like, when are you moving your stop loss? When do you not move your stop loss? So currently we sit at April negative 4.22% of the account. I also did take some money out of the account, and that's why that percentage is a little bit larger, because I needed to pay some bills. And then May, I have a 3.59 with zero money taken out of the account for any of the bills. So let's go ahead and dive into those. And I'm going to show you those numbers and those trades, and maybe talk about a little bit of the psychology behind all that. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys, we're here in April. I got my statements printed out because they're still sending me junk for emailed ones. So I went and got these PDFs. You can get them at any broker that you have, and I recommend it just so you have them to track your trades in case the database or something like that gets wiped. It's happened once before to me. I would like to point out here that we have a balance withdraw that I took for the month of April because I needed help paying bills. Now, this paying bills was because for 6 months I have, or at this point, 4 months, I had not yet made any money and the mortgage was coming up. So I took profits, and we're going to label that as a loss on the loss category. So if we remove this, that would be about 2% or 2 point plus percent of that 4.22% negative for April. If we take that equation out and we just mark this, we would be right around 2% negative for April. And it was a slog. And the reason it was a slog for April was because this first NZD trade that I had in this area, and I've covered that in a video, but we'll get to that in a minute. The beginning of the month started out relatively strong with a good couple of decent trades right off the bat between these couple right here. Also got a reimbursement for my fees. That reimbursement actually would have been eaten up by all of these lost trades, so it kind of cancels itself out in the end. It's actually relatively nice to have, to be honest. It's more of a courtesy, though, that my broker has. Now, getting into this position here, I was starting to get in the flow of the market. I had a very nice take home, and then a small loss here, an average loss here. And then I was prepping myself during non-trading hours. Now, this is the key to this trade, and I think I covered it relatively in depth, but we'll go over it again. These first portions of trades right here were in non-trading hours for me, and the reason that they hurt me so bad, these first four, when placed, immediately canceled out and stopped themselves out because the slippage on that, or the spread at after hours trading, was way too large. So that was, first of all, a screw up. Then my brain goes into overdrive as to I don't want to miss out on this trade. Now, that would mean that the next five here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that they would be FOMO. I think it's, yeah, that's 6, but oh well, we'll just use this for now. This was FOMO. Now, FOMO is fear of missing out. Now, this is one of the biggest issues that traders have. And it is separate from greed, but it does have a slight inkling of greed in it. It's actually more of anxiety and fear, and from my experience. So if I would have been a little bit smarter, I could have taken less of this issue and made it. I could have taken this situation and had less of an issue with it, is what I'm trying to say. So the problem was is that it came back down and stopped me out again. in real trading hours. And so then I got angry, and then I got greedy. And this was greed. And we're just going to label that with a G. Now, this greed also came back down and stopped me out and hit my stop loss. And this is when I started realizing I have an issue with my SLs, my stop losses, and I need to manage those. Talking to one of the guys that is turning into my mentor now, he has shown me a better way to do this, but at this current point in time, I had no idea. And maybe one day I'll make a video of that and show what was going on and why I was losing, say, 60% of all of these high profile trades. Now, I just lost 3 times in a row. 1, 2, 3. Just 3 times in a row in less than an hour. I mean, it was brutal. Now, after watching the market a little bit, I decided to get back in this particular area. Now, this trade was a bang on trade, but for some reason I decided to close it. So now we're back to fear. We're just going to label that with an F. This close ultimately lost me 5 to 10% that would have covered all of these losses. And I'm not joking. That was a hard lesson to learn right there. Now, after 1, 2, 3, 4 times of trying to make this trade work, there was actually a 5th opportunity the next day to get into this trade. And I sat there and I thought to myself, you should get into this. And I didn't. So this turned into a gun-shy trade. And I ultimately chose to go with GBP USD. And that guy just said no. No, just absolutely not. So these were the major losses. This is what ultimately set me back for the month and ultimately set my psychology on the side, pretty much just beating me up on my left shoulder. The next day was a major loss, was the AUD USD trade. This was just a normal trade. It actually was executed correctly. I attempted it twice. We had a good trade on AUD USD right after that. NZD, we had a decent trade. You can notice here that I placed 1, 2, 3 trades, and my immediate profit was larger than most. And then immediately took a couple hits. So trading is all about give and take, and your psychology can't necessarily handle that unless you train it to. And so that's where April was a large learning lesson. Again, you can see that I get back in an NZD trade and I pull out a decent chunk of profit. At this point, we're kind of breaking even from if I calculated correctly. We have a decent large trade here for Euro USD, which it seems all of my Euro trades seem to be a very large income now that I'm tracking them. GBP was a small loss there, but then it turns around and gives me a small income. This last one, because of my psychology and because I wasn't necessarily looking at the positives of these greens, and I was more so focusing on this screw up, and all of my notes were telling me how terrible I was because my brain was telling me how terrible I was, and my journal says, you screwed up. I got a little antsy, and I preemptively jumped into this trade. This would be greedy, I would say. It was a greed trade because I wanted to get back to a specific standing at the end of the month so that I could have a good video or a good response. Now, that, and plus I wanted to tell my wife, hey, I did good this month, even after a massive screw up and how almost depressed I was down here with this particular trade. Now, it didn't work. It obviously came out and set me behind a massive amount here. I'll leave that there just so you guys can see it. It hurt. It hurt a lot. I took the weekend off. Didn't even touch any of the trade stuff. It was my wife and I had to talk about it. I was not in a good spot. Now, coming into May in this particular area, fix that real quick. This month was a whole lot better. Now, it was filled with the same challenges ultimately, but instead of trying to bulldoze my way through it, the best thing I could do was to reset my psychology and go for it. So you can see that there's only 2 pages here. I mean, there was only 12 trades, and I still came out on top with a 3.59%. So I'm obviously redirecting in the correct manner. Otherwise, the market would make me pay for it. So Aussie USD right here was the first of those trades. Didn't necessarily do too great on it. Very small loss. However, that was covered by my gold trade. Very small income, but it did help cover small losses down there. Now, NZD, which is seeming to be my most traded, most frequent, and my most fun to play with. Also, the most frustrating and stupid and ideology behind why the spreads are the way they are. It just doesn't make sense to me, but that's because I'm young in the market, I guess. I'm new, whatever. Yeah, so I trade this guy a lot, and this trade was the way it should have been. Took relatively large risk on it, mostly because it had such a short stop loss. So I was really excited about that trade. Very sad it didn't work out. I had a reimbursement, gross reinvestment, so that boosted me a little bit from last month's stuff. Covered losses here and probably a tiny bit here. Euro USD had a decent loss here, and I actually have all this tracked so you guys can see the actual percentages here in a minute. NZD, really good income. Euro USD, really good income. NZD finally took profit on that guy. Final take profit, I believe. Nope, there's that other one. Then I got back into the NZD trades, and they're a little sporadic throughout here, so we're just going to group all of those together. And then Euro USD, 7-cent loss, big loser. And then I had some pretty decent outcomes at the end of that. So let's jump over to what I have for you guys. Perfect. Okay. And we'll zoom in so you can see it better. All right. So in here, I have all of my trades tracked, specifically on this table. This table specifically top left for the month of May, we'll zoom in a little bit. You can see that I've tracked every major trade there. And these are just tally windows that I use so I can print it on the other page to the left. But I would like to point out that I have 6 profits and 5 take losses, and I only made 3% that month. Now, that is pretty significant. My first AUD lost me 0.19%, and the second NZD lost me 1.53. I risked a little too much here. But the rest of my losses are well within that range of 1%. So I know I'm doing something right. I just need to figure out psychologically. That's why these windows now exist after May. And they're being tracked here. Why I'm doing this. I need to know why I'm going over 1.2 or 1.3%, because as soon as you cross over into that 1.3% range, that's when you're losing a little too much. From my trading experience, you're losing a little too much more than you can even recover. So you need to be focusing in and shorting how much you're losing versus allowing your long ones to run, because I have 1, 2, 3 good trades in a month. That's 3 good trades in a month, all at above 1%. Now, if we come back here, my biggest loss was 1.54. My biggest gain was 2.44%. Total profit of $270. for a month. Now, if you guys are thinking, man, that's a lot of work for nothing, it is. It really is. In the first year of trading, you're really not going to be making anything. But this work that I'm doing here is showing me, hey, you, it's possible. You just have to continue to focus and fine tune these things. I had 6 trades, 5 loss, or 11 trades total, 6 profit, 5 losses. My loss total was 4.09%. My profit was 7.69%. And the dates are now just for May. What are we looking at? Total gained 3.59. All of these numbers should add up. If they don't, I have to sit there and I have to go through it because this is all. It's not necessarily stolen, but I did see how someone did their system here, and I'm slowly changing it to what I believe should be done. And it's not all hyperlinked correctly. Now, I had 3 A trades or A plus trades. I had 2 B plus trades, 1 C trade, and 5 negatives. So I'm tracking those here. Also, you'll see that this zone right here is for the times, and then days. Obviously, my Tuesday and Wednesdays are not that great of days. And then down the bottom right are the currencies. So I just wanted to show you guys what this looks like, and maybe at the end of June it'll be a little more filled out. I'm kind of still trying to figure out how all of these particularly work together, at least in the linking and things like that. So, yeah.
So for the last portion of this, I just want to talk about real briefly what the next month's goals are. Honestly, really, there's not there's really not much more to do other than to focus on these particular areas because I'm not taking 30 to 40 trades. I can't sit here and like fine tune what I'm doing. I'm taking 10, 15 trades a week or a month, sorry. So I'm slowly, meticulously figuring out all these small areas that I need to work in. Those areas are hard to fight your psychology with. So being transparent and letting you guys know what's going on, I have bought a psychology book and I'm starting to fill that out. It's not necessarily, at least right now, it's 90 something pages long and I'm only in the first 6, I think. It's not necessarily anything different than what I know, but it's already started to hammer little points away. But it's education. So currently I'm looking for education. I'm also sitting down once a week. I'm hoping once a week with a mentor of mine. There's other guys in town now that I've learned that actually day trade and want to talk to me. And I would really like to sit down and talk with them. So I'm going to start branching out and start getting into these areas where I can get more hands-on knowledge from other people, but face-to-face. I don't want any of this influencer bullcrap from Instagram or from Facebook. I've been in this particular field for 7 years, not necessarily hardcore, but I know that 90% of the stuff that they put out there is wrong, or it's just meant to get them paid, because most people get paid on the back end of this. I don't. I don't make any money off of this. I don't care to make money off of this. There are people that ask me to teach them when I can teach them the basics, but what I'm learning is past the basics. I'm learning what it's like to be in the trenches. So the trench warfare of all of this, per se, is that blue collar guys, from what I'm realizing, is that blue collar guys don't necessarily have the experience to sit down in a position when they're hands-on oriented and try to fight their brain on this stuff. And a lot of the market says, you know, shut your brain off. And some people can. I mean, some people sit there and watch Netflix for 8 hours. I can't do that. I have to go do something else, or I have to switch. I have to go do something with my hands. It's not necessarily something I want to do. Is sit down and be in one spot all day. I'm just not getting there. So transparency wise, I'm not now doing this full time. I've had to take up a part time job because I can't afford to sit here and trade by myself all day long and not make money. I mean, obviously, I've made a $220 withdrawal. And that's it. In 6 months now, $220 is nothing. That's 6 months of work. For me, as a licensed plumber, that's less than 10 hours of work. Less than 10 hours of work for me. So, all of the money that I could have been making as a licensed journeyman versus what I've made now is not necessarily there. But the benefit long term is that if we base this on a 3% increase over time, 3% a month income, what would you have to make that feasible? I'll leave you guys with that. If you guys want to see specific things or specific details about my trading, please ask. I'd love to make videos for it. I'd love to have actual interaction. I want to be transparent. So if you have a question about losses or you have a question about specific winnings and earnings, ask. I'm not necessarily going to hide anything. I'll hide my account numbers. I'll hide my specific numbers on, banks and stuff like that. But I really don't care. I'm more sick and tired of watching guys go, here's the market, here's what I've made, you could do it too, and then not show I'm sleep deprived, I'm pissed off, I'm depressed, and things like that. I mean, these are the legit things that are inside this market. So I'm gonna leave you guys with that. Have a great week.